Well, this evening we're going to take another statement, and it might seem a little bit unusual to begin with, but I hope it might be helpful to some at least. The fact is that some might feel that they are too creative to believe. I feel that I'm too creative to believe. This is me, this is who and what I am, and it feels like the closer I've come to the Christian faith and to church and my experience of that kind of thing, it just seems so different to me, and it doesn't feel like I could ever fit in. I'm too creative to believe, because I'm interested in all sorts of stuff. I've got a real interest in art, someone might say, but I get the impression that Christians are not exactly in favour of that, because, I've been in your building and it seems pretty plain. Or I've been told by some, I've chatted to some Christians, I've looked on podcasts, and some would say, it's great to read, but you need to read non-fiction stuff. Novels are a waste of time. And you might say, I love stories, and I've been reading novels since I was a kid. But now I'm being told, no, that's not the sort of stuff that you want to be doing. Maybe you're very musical, and maybe you've got musical gifts and talents, and maybe you've picked up the thought that it's great to make music as long as they are gospel songs. Otherwise, we're not interested in that. God wouldn't be interested in that. Maybe you enjoy writing. Perhaps you enjoyed writing stories at school, not just reading them, but writing them. And now you're picking up the thought that it's got to have a moral attached to it. Otherwise, again, it's just a waste of time. You might say, I obviously would never say this, but you might say, I love being flamboyant in how I dress. I don't know, there's not a flamboyant piece of clothing in my wardrobe. But you might say, I love being flamboyant, but it just makes me feel I need to wear muted colours, because it doesn't feel expansive, creative, this Christian faith business, or certainly going along to church. I love colours, but things seem a little bit monochrome to me. Plain buildings. And maybe you've been told, well, that's so that we don't get distracted, so that we are able to give our attention to what we're in church for. We don't get pulled in the direction of worshipping created things rather than the Creator. And you end up thinking, okay, so anything that's too detailed, too involved, is celebrating human ingenuity in a way which seems to be just disallowed. And so I can't move in that direction, but these things seem to be me. And so there's a mismatch, and there's a bit of a blockage. And I feel like I would have to say, I'm no longer me in order to become a Christian. And that would feel untrue to how I feel I've been made. And so for some, this is a real difficulty. Don't know where to go with it. It might not be everyone's issue, but it may well be for some. And we're trying to cover a lot of things in this series to pick up reasons why people might say, I'm stuck somewhere now, not quite sure where to go. Well, I want to offer a number of observations from the Bible regarding that, hopefully to do so in not too lengthy a time. I used up most of my minutes this morning, so I'll have less minutes this evening, which is cool. Where are we going, first of all, for these observations? The first one, it's a very brief observation in a sense. It's in that passage I just read to us. It does have something to do with what we're doing tonight, as you might have begun to guess from that introduction to what we're talking about. But this little paragraph about Bezalel and Oholiab, and it's really interesting. There's a statement there which should, if we're used to the Bible at all, or if we've been in church for any period of time, there's a statement there which ought to take us by surprise. If I'd said to you before this evening, if you are a church person or a Bible reader, who is the first person in the Bible said to be filled with the Spirit of God and filled with wisdom? Well, you might have said, it's bound to be one of the kings, bound to be one of the priests, bound to be a great preacher, bound to be a charismatic national leader of the people. Nope, 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 nope. It's Bezalel. Bezalel is filled with the Spirit of God and filled with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, with all kinds of skills. To what end? what's he going to be doing? He must be marked out for an incredible job among the people, leading them. Is he going to be like a second Moses? Is Moses going to be made redundant? Bezalel takes his place? Bezalel has a specific calling from God, has been filled with the Spirit of God and with wisdom and understanding and knowledge and all kinds of skills in order to make artistic designs for work in gold, silver, and bronze, to cut and set stones, to work in wood, to engage in all kinds of crafts. And then you get Oholiab, son of Ahisamach from the tribe of Dan. He's going to help him. And God says, I've given ability to all the skilled workers to make everything I've commanded you for the tent of meeting, the Ark of the Covenant law, the atonement cover on it, all the furnishings in the temple. So you've got the table and its articles, the pure gold lampstands and their accessories, the altar of incense, the altar of burnt offering, its utensils, the basin with its stand, and then the woven garments, the sacred garments for Aaron the priest, the garments for his sons when they serve as priests. And then there's perfumery, the anointing oil, the fragrant incense for the holy place. They're to make them just as I commanded you. Filled with the Spirit of God and with wisdom and knowledge and all kinds of skills. God at work in these people in ways that are decidedly creative. Working with gold and silver and fine metals. Working with fine linen cloths and other sorts of cloths, being able to embroider them, being able to convey beauty and wonder through them, and so much more besides, working with wood and other things, with stones, all sorts of crafts. And Moses is told, these people are being filled with the Spirit of God for that exact purpose. Now, you might say, I wonder if that's an exception that proves the rule, that this sort of creative stuff is meant to be done in a corner, but for the vast majority of people, that's not going to be the case. Some might say, yeah, but that's Old Testament, and we live in New Testament times. Well, if we were to go back into Genesis chapter 1, we see actually where all this arises from. It's a wonderful chapter, and it concludes with, or the creation of God's creating of all things concludes with God saying this, let's make mankind in our image, in our likeness, that they may rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals, over all the creatures that move on the ground. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. The maker makes makers. Let's make them in our image. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, the one true God is saying, I'm going to make people, male and female, humankind. And they're not going to be like the animals or the other parts of creation that I've made, because all that was good, good, good. But now when I make people in my image and likeness, it's going to be very good. The Creator makes those who will make things like him. He's making little creators, not that we can bring something out of nothing in the way that he did, but taking and shaping and fashioning and forming and dealing with artistry and beauty and skills. But not just that. It's when you look at Genesis chapter 1, you see that the great Creator is also involved in tidying things up, in separating spaces out, and then in filling them. And you see in the Bible how things are numbered. So you might say, well, I never was good at art at school. I couldn't draw to save my life. Well, you and me both. But you might say, but I love maths. There are some of us who can say about school, I loved maths. Well, here is the God who gave the numbers. And all through the Bible, well, the Creator needs to know how many things to put in certain places because he's the one who fashions and forms it all. And he's made us to be like him. And it's not just that statement at the end of Genesis chapter 1. That statement is set within a chapter which is extraordinarily literary There's parallelism there. There's rhythm there. There's structure there. You get the repeated refrain, and God saw that it was good. It's not just a very prosaic account of creation. It's filled with beauty. Some translators say, we're not quite sure if it's just regular prose or if it's poetry, because it's got all these features with it. We're not quite sure what to do with it, because it's beautiful, because it reflects the God of beauty in his creative activity. God's act of creation gets presented in a way that celebrates his artfulness. And he makes makers. God is a poet, an artist, a builder, a sorter, a maker of all sorts of things, and he bequeaths that creativity to human beings. If we were to flip over into Psalm 19, that says to us, the heavens declare the glory of God. But in that psalm it says, yep, they haven't got a voice though. They are without word. Of course, the sky is without word. When we don't sit in our back gardens at night looking up, seeing the stars come out, and then we're listening to what the stars are saying. They are wordless. But Psalm 19 says, no, but they convey things to us. They tell us God who made all things. Genesis 1 says, and he made the stars. Psalm 19 says, sun, moon, and stars. They are saying to us without words, God is so glorious. He's painted truth into the universe. Their sheer expressive existence speaks of God. Creation is saying something, but it's saying it through beauty. It's not just there's a linear description. Without words, the power of God, the beauty, the wonder of God. When we go into the New Testament and we see Jesus, the Son of God, the one who loved us and gave himself for us, how does he live? You could say that he is aesthetically alive, because Jesus goes around telling stories, parables, and he does that in a way which is really artistic. He's able to lead people on in the story to think that this is going to be a conclusion, and then suddenly they're faced with something quite different, and it challenges them. Now, he could have put the challenge just as a straightforward statement. You need to be concerned about other people, not just yourselves. The people who really know God will be kind to their neighbour. He could have put it in any sorts of way, but he tells a story. There's artistry there. There's poetry there. There's creativity there. Think about when Jesus speaks about the prodigal son. It's in a chapter in Luke where he tells a number of parables. The lost coin, the lost sheep. You think, oh, that's interesting, a lost coin, and a woman searches for it. A sheep, I can relate to that, and the shepherd leaves the 99, goes after the other one. A lost son. There were two sons. And one threw everything away, asked for his money from his dad now, went into a far country. Isn't that so dreadful? Yes, but the other son, what was he like? He stayed at home, did what his dad wanted. But when the younger son comes back, the older one won't go into the party. Why not? Because he believes he's slaving for his father. He doesn't know his father's love. So actually, to those who are listening to Jesus, some of them are the religious leaders, which of those two sons is the most lost? The one who went away and was living a riotous life and then came home again, or the one who never set foot outside the family estate but never knew his father's love? It's told so incredibly, beautifully, wonderfully, powerfully. That's not incidental to the character and the ways of Jesus. He's demonstrating what God is like and what people made in God's image are meant to be like and capable of being. And then you find this picture that the Bible gives us of the beauty and the wonder of life. It's not just about, well, there are some decorative things here and we need to be alert to that kind of thing. So we need to be like, I forget the guy's name now, who made wallpapers and said, never have anything in your home which isn't both useful and beautiful. What was his name? William Morris. Thank you very much. If you go down to Castell Coch in Cardiff, I believe there are some examples of his stuff in there. This is not saying, well, the Bible basically is William Morris in religious dress. There's more to it than that. In the Bible, you have psalms of lament and protest about the evil and the injustice that are in the world, and a whole book about that, the book of Lamentations. But guess what? Those psalms and that whole book are written in the most astonishingly poetic manner. Not because God doesn't want us to get it. Some of us might say, I've never got poetry. I was never one in school. I just don't deal with it. I don't get it. But actually, the way it's written really gets under our skin and into our hearts. Because the images that are used, some of them are profoundly shocking, are meant to wake us up. God in words, being so creative to do his work amongst us and within us. And you find as well that at the end of the Bible, chapters 21 and 22 in Revelation, all the longings that we've ever experienced become pictured in the most tremendous fulfillment with imagery that again just takes your breath away. And we realize we're being led somewhere, led there through faith in Jesus, to the fulfillment of our deepest desires that we cannot put into words now, that will be fulfilled in ways beyond our imagining. And God gives us words and pictures to help with that imagining, but we can't actually get there even through that. It's taking us by the hand and leading us further and further and further on. So in a sense, what I'm saying is that this good news is not that Christianity is compatible with art. If you come to a halt because of that, you don't need to worry. I'm saying something that is actually more liberating than that. It's saying that that sense of beauty that we are attracted to, and that sense of that almost instinct to make something beautiful, is more than just compatible with the Christian faith. It actually speaks to us about the fact that we have been made by this God in his image and likeness. And Jesus is not saying to us, it's okay, but you need to kind of suppress most of that. Some of it is compatible and that's okay. He's actually the one who finally makes sense of that impulse towards being creative, making things, shaping things, counting things, arranging things. But you might want to ask, so am I saying then that it's all good? Whatever a person might want to do, whatever they make is okay, and God's going to be pleased with that. Are there no limits? Is there no reason for any caution? Well, no, two things to say about that. The first thing to say is, yes, we all know it sadly from history and sadly in our own lives, that our power to be creative in whatever form can be put to destructive, harmful use. We've all done it. We've all done it with our words. We've all sat at home and thought about a situation, a conversation. Maybe we're replaying it and we're going to make it different in our minds now. I wish I had said, or maybe we're preparing for it and we know what we're going to say. And we manage to put our words together in such a way that we know it's going to be sharper than a knife. And it's really going to hurt them because I want to get my own back. And it's going to be like I've slashed their face with a razor. My words will be so sharp, so painful. We're capable of doing that. It's within the human heart. We can twist our abilities, our creativity to wrong ends. We see it in history so clearly, don't we? The splitting of the atom. It can generate energy that will power hospitals, and it can destroy whole cities. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, never to be forgotten. Those who are great with words, who can write great novels, well, some of those novels, they can explore the dark side of life, not to tutor us in empathy, helping us to stand with the lost and the broken and the suffering. But actually they're written just to titillate and to encourage us to enjoy the misery of others. And they sell well, because we're quite happy to be entertained by other people's misery. We've definitely got to be wise. Creativity can be harnessed for wrong, for harm, for evil. But we also have to be a little bit careful with the stuff that is good as well. We can produce things, I don't mean just actual production of something, but in the broadest sense. We can say things, write things, produce things that other people might say, oh, I find that really delightful. The photo you took, I'm just blown away by that. It's a wonderful thing. Or the way you've arranged those flowers. I never noticed the flowers in church. There's my confession. But the way you've arranged, I'm not sure, are they real or are they silk? You can tell me afterwards. But the way you've arranged those, someone might say, I clearly wouldn't. It's just marvelous. I just loved it. It really lifted, it just lifted my experience for me. Thank you for the way you've done that, and so many other things as well. But the caution is, we need to be careful we don't overplay the goodness in making it the be-all and end-all. The Bible is so clear that our creativity comes from God, and the intent is for it to lead us back to him. That we will say thank you to him and give him glory and praise, that he, as the great maker, has made people who can make things, so that we, in making them, are able to say, God, you are great and glorious, and we're sharing in your life and in your beauty and in your power, and we're not making good things into ultimate things, because that's where we would begin to harm others and harm ourselves. If you're at all familiar with C.S. Lewis, then you will have expected him to have thought this through with his characteristic clarity and to express it in a way which has its own beauty, and he did just that. An essay called The Weight of Glory has so much in it. It's not a very long essay, but part of what he says is this. He's speaking about the books or the music or other things that we find beautiful and attractive and really enjoy them. He says the books or the music in which we thought the beauty was located will betray us if we trust to them. It was not in them. It only came through them. And what came through them was longing. These things, the beauty, the memory of our own past, are good images of what we really desire. If they are mistaken for the thing itself, they turn into dumb idols, breaking the hearts of their worshippers, for they are not the thing itself. They are only the scent of a flower we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we have never yet visited. He's saying all the things that we can make, and various people will enjoy this or that or the other, and we can take delight in them. They awaken within us a sense of longing. They're meant to lead us somewhere. They're not the end in themselves, but they are a blessing from God that help us to long for the full reality found in God himself. So to draw to a conclusion, if you found that you've been drawn towards Jesus and the Christian message about the God who made you, who loves you, who gave his Son for you, that all our sins might be forgiven, that we might have the real hope of everlasting life with him. If that's been drawing you, it makes sense of life. And yet along the way you've picked up the impression that you need to deny the things that you really enjoy about being a creative person or being a human being, that you need to relinquish the things that make you you. You've got to become a different person. I hope you've seen this evening that from the Bible itself that isn't really the case. Yes, we have to exercise wisdom. We can use our creative abilities for harm. We don't want to do that. we can actually morph them from being good things into ultimate things. That's also harmful and wrong. We shouldn't do that. But we are able to take them and use them for the glory of God and live out faith in Jesus, offering to him not just the things we might do in church, those as well, but the whole of our lives, who we are, how we are, the way we dress, the way we speak, the way we sing, the way we just engage in life, our appreciation of all that God has made and our own makings of the things that he has made. In a sense, I think we can say to close that the very bottom line in all of this is that as someone who's been made in God's image and who by faith in Jesus is being called to be transformed into his likeness, you're actually too creative not to believe. Well, I trust that God will help us in what we've thought about this evening. We're going to sing one more song and then I'm going to close by praying.